Hello, welcome to Building Up Your Business, the podcast. It's an exciting day. It's the very first episode, number one, which means that years from now, when I look back at our starting episode, I'm going to be like, wow, that was horrible. And yeah, exactly. And I could have done so much better. But you know what I could not do better is having Stephanie as our guest. She is the very best person that I could have picked for our first entrepreneur interview. So as you know, we're going to have all the pros on this podcast so that you can learn from them firsthand. But we'll also be doing some entrepreneur interviews so that you can learn from your fellow entrepreneurs. And that's why I've invited Stephanie. She's the founder and owner of Perspective Fitwear. Hey, I said it right this time. And she's here to share with us all of her stories. So without any further ado, our very first episode of Building Up Your Business, from bombs to what is our tagline? It's the first episode. It's okay. From bombs to inventory, marketing to taxes. Learn the stuff from the pros here first before you step in it. Now, Stephanie, please, without any further ado, give us a little about your origin story.
Sure. First, I want to say I don't know if I'm a pro by any means, but
You're
it's
a
a
pro
constant
entrepreneur,
learning
okay?
curve. Yes, yes, yes. I'm like, do you ever become a pro at this? No.
No.
But yes, so thank you for the introduction. I'm so happy to be on here and be a part of this. I just think this is so cool, and I love to share my experience. And if I can help anyone along the way, in entrepreneurship and business, it's always about helping others, right? And when you climb to the top, wherever the top is, you reach your hand down, you bring up the next person. So I love this. Just want to say that.
Thank you.
Yeah, my origin story, it's always been in athletic apparel. So Perspective Fitwear, it's active wear is what our company is. And it honestly started from my inspiration within the triathlon community. So doing triathlons over the years as a woman, in rural, in Pennsylvania, where I'm from, it wasn't very popular growing up in the 90s. And I had this neighbor who was always doing triathlons, was my best friend's mom. I was always inspired by that. So that's how I got into it after college. And I quickly realized that, wow, there is nothing for women. I'm like, how is this possible? How can all the cute running apparel and yoga apparel and, this is like when Lululemon was coming out and you're like, this is so great and it's so cute. And then you go into triathlon and cycling and it's just ick. It's catered to men. It's what we call in the industry, pink it and shrink it. So it's taking a men's size, sizing it smaller, calling it a women's large, and then making it pink. And I'm like, well, we look different. We function different. We move different. And so that was really the inspiration behind the line. We've obviously expanded since then. We've expanded into more active wear other than just cycling and triathlon gear. Being at that customer is just a multifaceted customer. And a lot of people are now. It's more about health and wellness and less just about a singular activity, right? I no longer identify as a runner, but now I might run and I do yoga and I play pickleball and I bike. So just meeting customers where they're at, and particularly women where they're at, right? Where the first thing that we're very visual and how we feel and look matters. And so the first thing we do is we go and you put on your outfit. Like, how do you feel? Right. And that's where the name perspective came from as well, right? Like, life is all about perspective. Find yours is our hashtag. So find your perspective. What you think and view matters most. And so I always say not looking good in something should never be a reason to miss out. So that is like the crux of our company. We have some other really cool things. This is a whole sustainability approach to it as well, but that is really the nuts and bolts of like why I wanted to get started.
And for those of you who have not actually experienced her apparel, I have quite a few pieces, and the feeling of it is beyond anything else. Oh my gosh, I just want to be like, oh, I love how I feel. I mean,
Yeah,
like, I
feel like the
feel
best
comfortable in
infinite.
it too, but it feels so soft, and for economy friendly fabric. Holy cow, I didn't know it could be so wonderful. So I just wanted to tip my hat to you,
Thank
and
you.
it's
Yes, everything
wonderful.
we do is really with intention, which is how you should build your company. What are your pillars? What do you stand for? And so one of those for us is just being very intentional with every part of our business, and that is obviously inclusive of the fabric we choose and the vendors we work with.
That's amazing. And what a great comment about being intentional with your choices as a business owner, because that's a very big pitfall is to not be intentional and just start randomly choosing and go downhill really quickly.
Exactly. Yep.
So tell us. I mean, obviously, you have a fantastic product. You have a fantastic story. It has come with its challenges, I am certain. So, what has been one of the biggest challenges you've had to overcome?
So I will say, obviously, for everyone who has had a company in the last 5 to 6 years would be COVID, a pandemic. So obviously, that goes without saying. I would say outside of that, because the knock on wood, us experiencing something like that again at that catastrophic level could be few and far between, right? So just yes, that was the biggest challenge. That aside, I would say for me being in the apparel industry is supply chain.
Mm.
So I remember taking a supply chain class. I was a finance major, so I remember taking that supply chain class in my business school, and you don't really put it together when you're in college. And even when you're in, I was working corporate America before I started my company, so it just never really came up in my world. And then starting a business with a product, a physical product that is a consumer driven product, right? I need someone to physically buy my items and I'm physically making them. All of a sudden, I'm like, whoa, okay, where am I getting the item? How is it being made? So namely my manufacturing. So finding the right manufacturer, finding the right team, quality control of the material, even the logistics of like, okay, I found a place where I want to get my fabric, but how do I physically get it here? How do I physically get it to me? Physically get it to the manufacturer? How am I physically making these patterns? Prototypes. Like, it's just so much that you don't think about when you go and like buy that shirt, like how many steps it took to get there. And so I would say that is was by far my biggest challenge on a professional level and getting the business started. I would say on a personal level, it is very difficult being an entrepreneur and being a woman. I also had two kids during this time. I worked for 10 years before I started my company. And so on that personal level, like how, when we met previously and, I'm pregnant or I'm having a kid and, you still have like life doesn't stop. And so I think that there's this notion of, oh, do you just, rise and grind and throw everything else to the wind? And that's just not always realistic, right? You still have bills to pay, you still have people to show up for, relationships to take care of, responsibilities that don't, you're not working in a silo. And I think people don't necessarily think of that when they're starting a business. And then you get so far into it that you're like, am I at the point of no return? But how do I manage and like work that balance a bit so you're not losing yourself in the business?
So, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you had both of your children during COVID slash post COVID as a new business founder with a husband who's consistently deployed.
Yes.
Okay, I wanted to make sure that all the listeners just understood the level to which Stephanie operates. Okay.
And it's hard because people who start a company, like they're probably not type B people, right? They're probably type A. And so we naturally just like take on more things and we're doers and you want to get things done. And so it's just figuring out how to balance all of that and how it all shakes out and what it looks like without also getting burnt out.
Yeah.
That can be a real challenge because most businesses don't necessarily fail because their product isn't good or
Yeah.
they like the whatever that looks like, but it's mostly that founder eventually gets burnt out, or it's
Yeah.
just it becomes too long of a journey. I remember when I started my company, my dad told me that it takes 20 years to be an overnight success. So get ready. Like, and like that is realistic. It's not going to be this like one hit wonder that people think I'm going to go viral and it's so easy.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're right. There's actually, I think, a commercial out right now that says, "Show me your overnight successes, and I'll show you the decades of work and experience
Yes.
and effort that went in to make that overnight
Yes.
success." So I think, and I'm pretty sure all the listeners are nodding their head, going, "Yeah."
Yes. Yes. You are not alone. You are seen.
Okay, so biggest challenge being supply chain, and I love what you said about that. The other thing that I thought about is, you pick up that shirt off the rack and you have no idea the steps that went into it and the cost of each step along the way. So,
Yes.
you're talking about buying that apparel. Well, then any time that somebody touches any piece of that, there's a cost to that, and that can be incredibly overwhelming for a first-time entrepreneur. So,
Yes,
I'm glad you said
definitely.
that.
Yeah.
So then what have been the resources that you have reached out and have been the biggest help as you have traversed this journey, let's call it?
Yeah, so I am going to give a shout out to the SBDC, which is the Small Business Development Center. They got me going. I'm so grateful for that establishment that it's available. For those of you who don't know what it is, look it up. It's the SBDC. They offer free or at cost classes on all things business related and entrepreneurship. I took a class. I was working full time. I took my sick day, PTO, whatever, and I'm going down and taking how to write a business plan. Like that's literally one of their classes. And it was 2 days long, and it's how to write a business plan. And they give you all the resources and a template, and you can meet with the counselor and they can walk you through what are the steps, how to be successful. They've had classes on, a marketing strategy or PR or a financial help. They also helped me get my first business loan. And so it just was such a great launching pad for me to get started and give me some sort of sense of direction. And I'm just beyond grateful for them. I have to give them so much credit. They are definitely my biggest resource for help. The second one I'm going to throw in there is SDSI, the San Diego Sports Innovators. So if you can get plugged into an incubator or an innovator series where you're working with a pod of people who are like-minded, maybe working on their own businesses. There's usually coaches there as well who are retired. They can link you up with someone in your field of business. So for me, it was retail. So getting linked with people that understand retail and advise. I mean, one of the people that were in my group as an advisor, I still advise with. So, and this was during COVID when I went through the San Diego Sports Innovators. So, I would say those two things would be really great to look into, SBDC, and then if you can get plugged into some sort of entrepreneurial group or innovator incubator series would be great.
Well, and that's the thing that I think a lot of people don't realize is that there are a lot of free resources out there
Hmm.
for entrepreneurs and small business owners, and you don't have to go at this alone. You don't have to, it feels lonely. It's always lonely when you have your own business, but you're not alone. There are so many resources, and when you're bootstrapped, a lot of these can be free. Yes, there's things that are paid for, and yes, there are things that you
Yeah.
can pay for, but if you ask a friend, call one of us, we'll point you to somebody that does it
Yes.
for free.
Oh yeah, definitely. And yeah, the whole lonely part of it, that can kind of fall under biggest challenges as well, because it does feel like a really lonely journey, especially if you don't have a co-founder. So I don't have a co-founder, so I don't have that sounding board and that person to gut check or bounce ideas off of or sit at the table and physically work together. Everything I do is kind of alone. And so plugging into that community, there's tons of networking communities in different cities, virtual. I'm pretty sure SDSI does now virtual across the country.
I'm
So
sure.
people could look that up, but getting plugged in some sort of way as well would be just help so much. It's kind of like banding together.
Well, and I mean, like you said, the burnout is intense and a killer, and so all of these things are great
Yeah,
to help prevent that burnout.
yeah.
So, what has been your biggest win? What is something that you can or is willing to share that you are extremely proud of?
Um, okay, so something that I would be extremely well, I think there's two. I looked at this win in a couple different ways. I would say the biggest win for me was honestly finding my fabric mill because it starts with your product. Like that's everything. And so I really believe in like quality products and that's just the root of everything. And so when your biggest win when you can get together that supply chain, it just feels so good when you just feel so like balanced and even and things are kind of humming a little bit. And even if there's hiccups here and there, or you got to find a different cut and sew or there's blips and that happens. But once things start kind of working together, it just that to me feels like a biggest win. And so I would say for sure throughout this journey, figuring that out has been the biggest win for me. We also during 2020 signed a contract with USA Triathlon, which was really great for us at the time. We worked with all of the high performance athletes. We were their official apparel
Wow.
sponsor. That was a really great relationship to be a part of, to see that, especially supporting the women in the sport, right? Bringing a different lens
Yeah.
to it. A lot of the other partners were male dominated apparel and so that there wasn't that representation. And so that was something that the fact that I started my company in triathlon and then was able to obtain that contract was a really cool experience at that time for me.
Well, and I mean, how old was your company at that point? It was pretty young, right?
Like 3 years.
Yeah. So I mean, you're pairing
Yeah.
with a huge national company. So,
Yeah.
what an honor. I'm assuming that previous partners were like what, Nike?
Right. Huge. I mean, yes, huge in the industry. So yeah, it was a
So, yeah,
huge win for us and something that was really cool to have and
very
just made you
exciting.
feel like, okay, yeah, I have something people want. A
Yeah.
feather in the cap.
A little feather in the cap. So, what is next? Where are you taking the business? I mean, obviously, I'm sure there are things that you can't quite talk about just yet. So, we don't want you to go into any of that, but what are you planning next for the business?
Yeah, so yeah, we are looking to expand. The next step for us is will probably be some looking at series funding. That's something that we didn't really talk about, and I would encourage all entrepreneurs to hang on as long as possible without bringing in outside funding. That's not always a good thing, especially when you're first getting started. And that's just another contract that you owe to, and it can almost make it feel like more pressure. And so I've been around for a while with the company, and it's ebbed and flowed, and COVID and all the things. And so I think the next step for us, yes, is really trying to harness on that online presence, being more digital, looking into paid advertising. People think that that's a great place to start, but it's actually not. You can burn through a lot of cash that way that you may not have at the time or limited resources of. So now I feel like that is the next step for us as a company. We also launched a men's line. So that's
Very
exciting.
exciting.
Yeah, so we've had just a few pieces, nothing crazy. We're really still focusing on our ladies, but everyone loves the fabric and it's just so comfortable and wonderful. So we launched a couple of men's basics, and so we've been selling that for a bit. And so we'll continue with that path as well, probably expand on that at some point. and just, see where it goes. I like to plan it tight, but keep it loose. So we'll see what happens.
Being agile is the entrepreneur's best friend, is that agility.
Yes,
Flow
my
like a reed
sister.
in the wind.
I know, right? My sister, she always says, "B, you gotta get comfortable with being uncomfortable." I'm like, okay.
All those cliches that you want to be like, and I'm gonna vomit a little, but
And then
it's
you're
true.
like, it's so true.
Like, "Ah." But is that when mom's always right and you're like, but I don't want to tell her. I don't
I
want to
know.
say these cliches are accurate. I'm going to
Yes.
fight to the end.
Yes.
Well, we're all very excited to watch the continuation of your journey. And if you haven't checked out, see, I knew I was going to botch the name, Perspective Fitwear. It's www.perspectivefitwear.com. And say what your hashtag is again.
Yes. Our hashtag is find yours.
Find yours. I love that. I love the story behind all of that. We'll go ahead and put all of the company's contact information in the details below. And Stephanie, are you okay if other entrepreneurs want to reach out and
Definitely.
share stories or ask for advice? Well, then great. We'll put your actually I should ask, what is the best way? Is it LinkedIn, email?
Yeah, through LinkedIn. They can find me on
Okay.
LinkedIn and message me there, and then we can connect over email.
Perfect. So I'll put your LinkedIn in the contact information below as well so that any entrepreneurs that are listening, if you do want to reach out to Stephanie and connect and ask her about her journey, I know she's just as sparkling a person when you talk to her when she's not on camera. She's just as wonderful of a person to work with. So thank you for listening. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for being our very first entrepreneur.
Thank you for
And
having me.
thank you, everybody, for listening to the very first episode. The next, probably about 3 months worth of episodes, is going to be from the pros. So you can learn all of the stuff here before you step in it. Thank you for joining us. We will see you in 2 weeks and we hope to talk to you and share more soon. Bye.